Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for hanging in there as we come to the conclusion of this business outlook here in Exuma. My name is Ayla Isaacs. I'm the Assistant General Manager with Water and Sewage with responsibility of the Family Island Division. So as everyone else, I want to thank the Business Outlook team for inviting us, Water and Sewage, to be a part of this presentation. And the topic that we're going to be delivering on is prioritizing inclusive sustainable growth, delivering high-quality sustainable infrastructure, some of our challenges, the constraints, and of course, most importantly, the solutions. So just going to take you a little bit through past, present, and future operations, just so you have an idea and appreciation of where we've come from, where we are, and of course, where we plan to go. So circa 1975, 1976, we had the National Water and Sewage Corporation, which was an official water and sewage corporation. This was an entity that was under the Ministry of Works at the time. How do we get most of our water? Predominantly from ground wells. And so most of you know the makeup of the Bahamas. We are essentially a chain of relatively flat islands. Most of our hills don't exceed much more than about 3 meters or so above sea level, mean sea level, of course, with a few exceptions in some of the islands. And of course, we have very little runoff water that we can rely on. So from that regard, when we do our groundwater wells, those of you, I'll do a little chemistry and a little science mixed up in this as well. So for those of you who know, which is heavier, or which is denser, salt water or fresh water? There we go. So we know that salt water sits at the bottom of the well, fresh water sits on top. However, between the two is a very thin film so that we can extract fresh water from these wells. However, if we over-abstract from these wells, what we end up doing is breaking that film, and then we get into a saltwater lens. So what we try to avoid is breaking that barrier and maintaining the ability to extract just fresh water from these wells. So this map here is from the United States research facility that they would have assisted us sometime circa back in the early 1990s, and they would have developed this map that actually lays out for us where our freshwater areas are on each island. This is the island of Exuma. So you can see any area where you see this very bright turquoise color, that's where we have these freshwater pockets. Where you see we have this cross-hatched red and pink color, those are areas where dense saltwater lands. So you would see that even for just producing fresh water to essentially supply the entire island via wells can sometimes be difficult based on how persons are located geographically on the island. So if you're in an area that's predominantly saltwater, I don't care how deep you dig your well, I don't care how much you do, all you're going to be doing is abstracting salt water. However, someone who probably lives maybe just a few miles away, all they have is this abundant supply of fresh water. However, for the corporation, what we were attempting to do, because we would have operated with well fields, is to say, okay, how best can we supply a person? So in Exuma, what we would have had is several wells that were essentially all strung together with the intent of us abstracting as much fresh water as we could, supplying that fresh water without breaking that barrier, that film. However, what we found in time, this wasn't the most sustainable option that we could utilize. Of course, as the island grew, as population expanded, as persons like to go and live out in these beautiful but very remote areas, it's difficult for us to continue to sustain supply of water via this mechanism. So what we then did is transition towards reverse osmosis, specifically saltwater reverse osmosis plants. Now, while this is a very efficient way, or well, not efficient, while this produces the most pure water that you can possibly get, it is a very cost-prohibitive practice that we have adopted here in the Bahamas. And it is very difficult to scale in some instances because, again, it is a very high energy, high operationally costing avenue that we utilize. However, it is more consistent, we found, than operating just the wells because, again, like I said, you have several wells that you're attempting to manage. You're attempting not to break the seal, this film between saltwater, freshwater. You have to consider the factors of climate change that we are all aware of. So things such as saltwater rise, the intrusion, flooding, all of these things have the ability of impacting our wells, whereas with reverse osmosis, we simply drill a well, whatever it is that comes out of it, we have the ability to purify it and distribute it. However, one of the things that we also find, so this is currently the method that we utilize for the most specifically here in Exuma. We utilize reverse osmosis plants. But those of you who know anything about nutrition as well, so this is just a little extra I'll toss in for free. So those of you who know anything about nutrition as well would know that there's such a thing called, there's a micro benefit to where you eat. So if you eat foods that are more closely grown to where you are, the better it is for you. Similarly, if you drink water from wells that are in the area where you are, likely chance it's better for you. What reverse osmosis does, while it is consistent in what it delivers, it strips the water quality of everything, of all the minerals that are in it as well. And so often what we have to do is then add minerals back to the water before we even distribute it, again, which adds to the high energy, high operational costs. So again, there are pros and cons with using both the well fields and the reverse osmosis plants. However, where we currently are is with the RO plants. So here in Exuma, we actually are operating about 6 RO plant systems that feed the entire mainland as well as the Keys. So everything from Emerald Bay, Georgetown, Farmers Key, Black Point, Williamstown, and Saniel Key. So we also have the areas of Ramsey and Roll Town, which are fed from Emerald Bay and Georgetown, respectively. So we do have plants that facilitate the island. Some of these plants are poised for expansion, again, based on the works that are being undertaken, based on the growth that we see within the Exuma Island and Keys, and so we are as well updating and evolving based on the demand and the requirements that the island is presenting to us as well. What are we planning for the future and what are we currently doing? Those of you who are here from early this morning would have heard that both Minister Clay Sweeting as well as Deputy Prime Minister Cooper would have spoken on the many investments that the country has committed to making throughout the Bahamas and here in Exuma as well. I think it was quoted as over $300 million worth of investment. Part of that $300 million is in fact allotted to waterworks. So that would include the length of water mains being the pipe work that we're executing throughout the island. So you can see the various areas where we have either recently completed work or work that are ongoing or work that we plan to execute in the very near future. I know the map is a little small, but it actually highlights all of the areas where we're executing work here in Exuma. So that includes the upgrades of storage tank in Saniel Key. Black Point, we plan to expand the water mains there as well. Georgetown is going to be receiving the RO plant upgrades. Roll Town, we have the booster station that's in place. So essentially, like I would have mentioned before, Roll Town is being fed from Georgetown area. And so then we have Steventon. Those of you who live here would have remembered that very tall towering tank that had the unfortunate accident of collapsing during the storm. So we do have plans to replace that tank, not with something similar because we don't want a similar reoccurrence, but something even better, of course. And then for Black Point and Farmers Key, we do have plans to install generators to assist with maintaining the power supply there so that, you know, one of the things we like to say at Water and Sewage as best we can, you know, even if the lights are off, we like to know that you still have access to water. It's not always the case, but as best we can, that's what we attempt to do. So again, that's the purpose of the generators. And what are our ongoing future commitments? These aren't things that we just want to do as the corporation ourselves. Essentially, what we have done as a country is we've signed on to agreements both with the Millennial Development Goals, which was circa 1998, 1999, the government would have signed on to these Millennium Development Goals. It was a series of 8 goals that companies that signed on to would have committed to say, this is what we want for our countries, this is what we want for future development, so that, again, we upgrade the status of our various countries. And that was supposed to be executed between 2000 and 2015. Since then, there were the Sustainable Development Goals, which essentially were the evolution of these original 8 goals into now a total of 17 goals. And one of them being, of course, the access to clean water and sanitation. This is a commitment that the country made, saying that our responsibility or our goal is to ensure that at least 95% of our population has access to clean water and sanitation, a commitment that the corporation continues to strive to execute. And again, this is a goal that we are supposed to achieve on or before 2030. So we have 5 years to get, well, less than 5 years to get together. But that's the goal that we have committed to. As it pertains to our continued sustainable growth, we are aware and we are very much impacted by climate change, as is every other company, as is every other business that's here. So we have taken strides to improve how it is that we operate, how it is that we do our installation. So for some of it, it's very simple, where we know that we experience flooding, where we know we experience storm surge. In those areas, when we're installing our infrastructure, we've taken the commitment to say we're going to go deeper to ensure that we have that added coverage. For our above-ground infrastructure, as best we can, we're going to ensure that we either move our infrastructure inland at least 2 miles or at least 30 feet above mean sea level to, again, prevent any damage that could possibly happen with flooding or storm surge. For our storage tanks, specifically the plastic ones, because we know that we still have those throughout the islands and the Keys, we've taken steps to ensure that we have hurricane straps installed on these tanks so that they don't become projectiles, so that we don't have to go and collect it from someone's backyard 2 miles down the road. So these are things that we are, if not having already implemented, are working towards implementing in the very near future. In addition to that, we are, again, working toward our sustainability with renewable energy. So we would have already started this project in Abaco, where we actually have a solar field installed in our Abaco plant, and it's something that we're hoping to expand to our other islands and operations here in Exuma as well. While it may not be a full-out solar farm, what we're hoping to do is even transition some of our motors to solar energy so that we have the ability, again, to maintain the system even in the absence of BPL, or if BPL is impacted by a storm. Again, we acknowledge the area and the region that we live in. And again, our goal is to ensure that you, our customers, continue to receive our services as uninterrupted as possible. So we are doing our best to explore those avenues. The ultimate goal would be ocean thermal energy conversion. I don't know how many of you are familiar with OTEC, but essentially it's a closed loop system where we're able to abstract water. Once that water is abstracted and we are able to retain a thermal difference between 20 degrees Celsius, what we're able to do is then use that energy. We can convert that condensation to energy, so that entire process now produces water for us as well as energy, so it closes the loop of our operation. So that's ultimately where we're striving to go, to close the loop and again, increase our level of sustainability and reduce our carbon footprint. And something as well that you would have heard recently, well, it's not on the slide, but we're also moving toward digital meters. So digital meters is something that we're using, which again is an efficient upgrade for our customers as well as for us. So these new meters, the Hydrus meters, are actually going to be installed to help more so read your meter, read your recording accurately. So you won't have these older Kent meters, which are more analog. You'll have these new digital meters, and it'll also increase the efficiency of reading for non-revenue water. So if you have any leaks, any issues on your system, these new meters are able to detect it more quickly, more efficiently, help reduce your bill, help increase our efficiency. So overall, it's a win-win for everyone. Here in the Bahamas, I think we've installed just under 10,000 meters in total. In Exuma, I think we've installed just over 400 of these new digital meters. So we are in the process of changing out these meters throughout the islands. The goal is by the end of this year to hit at least 20,000 meter installs, which we feel we can still achieve. Our teams have ramped up their efforts considerably, and again, we will see the benefit of this, not just for the customer side, but also from our side in operations. And of course, it would be remiss of me to not leave here today and encourage you all to join on with water and sewage. If you have not done so already, in your personal perspectives, just from your business perspective, ensure that you are tied in with water and sewage for several reasons. One of which is that we ensure that the standard of the water that we provide to you, our customers, meets not only your personal satisfaction, but aligns with the World Health Organizational standards. We test our water routinely. We ensure that our customers have the assurance that their water is free of contaminants and pollutants. And more so, we have a laboratory that is dedicated and committed to ensuring that they have responsible and regular results delivered to you, our customers. And that was in record time, so thank you all very much for this opportunity to share with each and every one of you. Just one more thing, please note that Water and Sewage remains committed to you, the customer. We know that every drop counts and every island matters. So thank you again.